Does anyone ever come to you for coaching and you think you don't have a chance of getting on stage?
Not really, to be honest. I think everybody has an opportunity to get on stage. Because if you think about it, yes, we're competing against other people, but really, it's cliche. We're competing against ourselves. So the way I kind of see it is you're your own canvas. So if you put the work in, whether, you're the top three or you're at the bottom, it's still your best ever. And the way I kind of see it too is like if you're trying to improve your physique thereafter, it's like a nice, you get clarity with where you're at. It's like a benchmark to see, kind of how you stack up to maybe other people. But, you can see what you're doing right, see what you're doing wrong, and you can continue to build on it. And it's like the 3D muscle journey, right? Like we're all trying to better ourselves in the process. And I think it gives people purpose too. Like if you have a goal like that, like to try to attain something that's a little bit more extreme. I don't know about you, Steve, like when you compete, you have like more hyper focus on something. You have more purpose. You put more effort into it. And how can you not improve if you do that? So I think sometimes like you might feel like you may not fit in, but how do you know if you're never really challenging yourself? So I always like to, like, if people have that question, like, if you're thinking about competing, then you never know until you actually do it. So I always try to encourage people to actually put that first foot forward.
People are their own stopping points. And what I mean by that is that if I had an application come across my desk and the person was 5'6" and 280 pounds, and they wanted to compete, I would say, yeah, you got a chance to do it. It's going to take time. We're going to have to make sure, that we give you plenty of time, establish habits, all that kind of stuff. The only time a person has no chance of getting on stage is because they basically can't or won't do what it is that they need to do. They're their own stopping point. So, I need them to, do certain things and be able to execute certain protocols. And if they don't do it, then, they're not going to get what it is that they want, basically. They're their own limitation. So if there's a chance that somebody can't get on the stage, usually that's where they're not going to be able to make it. And even then, everybody wants to get on stage jacked and shredded and have a chance at a win. And that is where the stopping point is going to be. The person that wants to get jacked and shredded and win, they may not be able to do what it takes to be jacked and shredded and contend for a win,
A lot of that's coming from insecurity, right? Would you guys agree?
Insecurity.
As far as like the question, it's like, do you guys think I'm good enough to do this? Mm-hmm. It's like a kind of an insecure base from like where that question is starting from. I've had athletes that they're like genetic freaks. Like they've never even competed before, but they're just like already come to us with like a ton of muscle. And they're like, yeah, this guy can do really well on stage, but they're insecure because they don't know where they're at because they've never been exposed to competing. So I've had people that are just genetically blessed, hard workers, but they think they're not where they are. They think they're actually less than where they're at. And I've even had to encourage people who are genetically gifted to actually take that first step to compete. So it's really, I think it comes down to like whether we're jacked or not. Like you kind of have to have that confidence level. And I don't want to be that coach like from the beginning says, this guy just not genetically blessed. Let's not even challenge him.
Mm-hmm.
That's to me, it's like push. Like someone might just need a good push to actually do it. Yeah. And then, you go through the entire process, whether it's a 6-month prep, 8-month prep or whatever, you come out the other side, regardless of, if you placed well or not. You learn so much about yourself by actually putting that effort level in. You go, wow, I actually accomplished something. And if I can do this, what else can I do outside of the sport? Mm-hmm. So, I think it's always better to be positive and encouraging versus like kind of seeing someone like maybe, I don't know how well this person's going to do and kind of just give them some feedback that maybe just doesn't even allow them to actually take that first step.
Yeah, because almost never will I get a fresh application, new person right in front of me and say they have no chance of getting on stage. Never. I mean, have you ever thought that? Like a fresh application, they want to get on stage. Have you ever been like, there's no chance?
No.
I've never had that. I have never thought that ever. But I can say that I've worked with somebody for a while and I know what it is that they want. And a lot of times it's what they want on the bodybuilding stage. And I've said to myself, they ain't going to get it. They're not going to get what it is that they want doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? Or not following protocols or not taking care of business, taking care of their own business. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of a long way to answer what seems like a simple question. But yeah, I've never looked at a fresh application, a brand new person and said they got no chance ever.
I mean, I'm a realist too. Like, you know, I can recognize talent level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can recognize someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of muscle, or maybe they have a lot of body fat to lose, or a combination of the two, and say, okay, you know, yes, you can do this. I have confidence that we can do this. But like you said earlier, it might take a little while longer. Like, we have to do big picture game planning to make this happen successfully.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times too, like, if you're not making that big picture setup properly and it takes a turn for the worse, I mean, think of like the confidence level at that point. You make too many wrong turns.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's super important to game plan that and just be real with people. Like, you know, we're experienced. Like, I've been doing this thing for like since the early 90s. So I've seen a lot of bodybuilders. I know what kind of the levels people are at. It's like you have to be real with them. Like, okay, if you're expecting to be, you know, you want to go close to, you know, becoming pro or what have you, it might be a 10-year project.
Mm-hmm.
But there's levels. You know, it's not like your first time out, you have to go into an open division. It's like, you know, maybe if it's a teen, hey, we're starting at teens, or if it's juniors, novice, and kind of work your way up from there.
Yeah.
And it's easy for this sport. Like, we get caught up in trying to be like too many steps ahead. And tripping over our own feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just slow down, you know, appreciate where you're at now, recognize where you're at now, and build on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to work harder. You think, you're like, I know it's going to be hard, but sometimes it's going to be harder than you think it is. And you have to work harder in order to get what it is that you're after, or whatever it is that you want. It's going to take twice as much work as you thought, or it's going to be twice as hard. But again, people are their own limitations. I've had people in great shape that I'm encouraging them to get on stage, and they didn't fit the mold that they wanted. You know?
When I was in my
and they don't get on stage.
Yeah, when I didn't get pro cards. I was in my late 30s, and I had done 20-something shows. And I just remember prior to that, like maybe early 2000s, I was like maybe 30-ish, somewhere in there. Like, I didn't have like 100% confidence that I can actually turn pro. But then once I started kind of looking at these shows, I'm looking at all these people, I'm like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? Like, what makes me not special like them?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, okay, let me have belief in myself. Let me work hard, put the work in, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
It took a little while, but I eventually got it. So again, if you have someone who maybe is not as gifted or something like that, you be real with them. Like, okay, this is your level. Potentially, this could be your level, but you have to put the work to make that step.
I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I'm trying to
We're
think.
talking too much. It's
Well, it's good stuff. I'm trying to think like as
it's that right there. What is that? Pepsi Max?
It's that mango
No.
flavor.
Mango flavored, zero sugar.
I was trying to think of like as a team, like when do we typically like, you know, discourage it? Because like you guys were saying, like it's not like anyone can. It just might not be the time. And like typically, it's like the only times we really like kind of steer someone away for it who reaches out to compete is if they're not in the headspace to compete. Like if they're kind of stuck in some disordered eating behaviors and they're not in the right like headspace to compete at that time. It's kind of like, not that they can never do it, but just now is not the time. It's like you're saying, like it might be extending the timeline for when they can compete, but they could still potentially do it in the future.
It's not that they don't have a chance of getting back on stage, or if they have a lot of red flags and have never been on stage, it's not that there's no chance that they can't get on stage. It's just not now.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a long-term project.
Yeah, because I
So,
think we think about like this person can get on stage. It's like physically, yes, like yes, you can train,
mhm.
you can diet, you can do all these things, but like the behavior side of things or the psychological side of things,
The
like
anxiety around
yeah,
food
like
and
that, like some if there's red flags around that, and the way to kind of find that out is to like ask questions, like one on one with an individual to find out like what the context is around this person's, the way they do things, their environment. So there can be some red flags there as far as like maybe some relationship issues or financial issues because this sport's pretty expensive to do. Like financially, it can be a strain. So if there's like some red flags there, so like maybe it's just not the time now, but it could be later. But all these other things need to be maybe worked on first. Like maybe that's the priority versus like I need to add 5 pounds of muscle on my frame. Because most people, even with some of the stuff that I'm talking about, they're still kind of training anyways. They're going to the gym 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. So you still have opportunity to build muscle. It's more so like this stuff internally might need to be worked on a little bit more so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like we would never, like if somebody was struggling with like binging and purging, we would never start them on a prep.
No,
Yeah.
that would be like...
So it's like, because that happens sometimes, they'll be struggling with something like that, but they'll be wanting to prep at the same time. And so that's a situation where now's not the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we answered the heck out of that.